Hey, Coach. Dalton Pence, Cardinal Sports Zone. You talked to me about a month ago about how this was perhaps the most difficult strength of schedule that you've had in your tenure here at Louisville. How do you feel like this gauntlet, so to speak, has kind of prepared you all for, looking forward to this tournament?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always thought to be the best, you've got to play the best. And certainly our schedule this year and, even some of our opponents that haven't been as good in the past have stepped up their level as well. So there's no doubt not only the ACC competition once we got into that schedule, but our non-conference opponent as well. It has set us up for success for the NCAA tournament.
Hey, Justine, it's Jody Dunley with Cardinal Authority. You knew, I think you knew going into last weekend, obviously you were going to make the field, but still, it's so difficult in your sport to see your name called on that Sunday night. What did it feel like still when you got in?
Yeah, definitely a little different this year. I remember when we won the regular season against Syracuse a few weeks earlier, we had a senior celebration, and normally at those celebrations we're still wondering, hang on a minute, we're still going to be a bubble team, but we were confident that we're going to make the tournament. We were probably more interested about who we were going to match up with, and also if we were going to be able to host, because when you go undefeated in the ACC, surely that you would set yourself up to become a host site. So we were very interested in that piece. Obviously, not winning our semi-final round and the Big Ten having a successful season, a little bit deeper, we knew that it was going to be pretty tight. So we knew we were going to be in, but we were just very interested about if we were going to host and who our matchup would be.
Speaking of that matchup, what can you tell us about the matchup that you have this Friday?
Yeah, that was very interesting. We know a lot about them now because over the last 2 days we've watched a lot of hockey. But in that moment, I was like, well, this is going to be interesting. We know nothing about them at all. We obviously know that they're a great team and have had a fantastic year. As we've evaluated their film, I think it will be a pretty good matchup. I think they're definitely more individualistic than some of the teams that we've played against. They've a lot of international experience, a lot of senior experience, and so it's going to be about taking care of those individual players and certainly not giving up penalty corners because they've got a great penalty corner unit. And then, when I think about last week, we need to defend. We need to work harder to defend and then play Louisville field hockey. But how they play, there's zero excuse for us not to be able to play our style, which that's a great thing.
Coach, you bring back 9 members of that starting 11 from a team that made the Final Four for the first time in program history. How is it to have that experience that has gone deep in the tournament when you are not hosting this year, so you're having to play up in Michigan? What's that experience like to be able to go into a hostile environment like that?
Yeah, no, it should be really great for us. And then when you make that comparison against a Harvard team that hasn't played, obviously they didn't play last year, and the previous few years Princeton got that automatic bid. So even though that team is experienced with their seniority, they do not have that NCAA experience nor even tournament experience because they don't have a tournament to compete for with the Ivy League. So I think given those two situations or circumstances, that it should bode very well to us. But it doesn't mean that it's automatically going to happen. We actually need to work very hard together in order for it to happen. But yeah, we've had great experience the last couple of years, and we definitely are a lot deeper this year as well, which could be an advantage.
Justine, does it make a difference that you've actually played there once? I mean, earlier in the year at that facility. Does that help at all?
We actually don't like to play up there, to be honest. It's a different surface. It's more challenging to play our passing game. The ball bounces around a lot more. It's less fluid. I was up at Syracuse last weekend. It was similar. It was colder. The turf was dry. It was bouncy. I think the advantage is we know it's going to be that way, and we can't do anything about it. So just embrace it, expect the expected, and do your best, get over mistakes, and get on with it.
Hey, Coach, Daniel Rankin with the Louisville Cardinal. Congrats on a great season so far. Obviously, we're speaking to Maddie next. How would you evaluate her season along with Katie Schneider's season with the team leading goals?
Yeah, if I think back to last year and then going into this year, when you lose Meg Schneider and Mercedes Pastor, and I believe it was like 47% of our scoring. And so I really didn't know how the season was going to pan out for us from an attacking side of things. Maddie Tabor in particular, what I'm so proud of is to see her going from that first weekend where she had that unfortunate and significant injury, and seeing when we were going back-to-back seasons and seeing her on the sideline rehabbing day after day all throughout the summer and preparing herself for the preseason. It just really, I'm just a big proud coach of what she's had to endure to get back onto the field in the condition that she is currently in. I mean, she's a worker. She definitely provides a lot of defensive effort, but she also really wants to be part of our attacking unit as well. Sometimes she probably works a little bit too hard. She could work a little smarter, but she's team first all the way. She fits very well in with what we're trying to do from the attack point of view. And she's come up clutch in key situations, whether it's a game-winning goal or on a rebound on a corner. So I couldn't be more proud of her. And similarly, Katie, she's got a nose for the goal. She gets herself in the right positions, but certainly we've not generated as much attack in recent weeks. We're playing against great opponents, but hopefully we can generate a little bit more this weekend.
Hey, Coach, just JL Curvin from the Courier-Journal. You've only had one overtime loss this season, and you just touched on your experience a little bit earlier. In what ways have you seen that experience help you out this season, especially in those tight games late?
Okay. I actually consider our game against UVA not an overtime loss. We lost in a shootout. So I'm going into overtime. We're very confident. I love what we've done this year with the different system that we've played. We definitely go a lot deeper as well within overtime. Positionally. Unfortunately against UVA, we were unable to put one on the board, but I think that on attack and defense, we handled the situation very nicely. I'd say whether it's full field overtime or that experience going into NCAA tournament, it absolutely is an advantage.
Hey, Coach. Go ahead, Jody.
We talked about this earlier in the year. When you're playing a team that you're playing for the first time, they're right now scouting you, and you have so many players that can score. How much of an advantage is that for you guys?
Yeah. I guess when you scout opponents, typically you're going to, when we think of Harvard, we're naming, number 3, number 8, number 10, number 12. I think it will be quite hard to scout us from an attacking point of view. Maybe an Amy Plum, they might take a look at just from what she's able to do on the ball. But in terms of scoring threats, I think we've just shared the load and we've shared the responsibility. Typically, as the season's gone on, if we've had 1 or 2 players that have had maybe a down game, others have stepped up. But if we're going to be successful against Harvard, we have to put them under pressure. We have to step up our press and our defending so we can have better counterattacking opportunities. And just this past week, and certainly it has happened against new opponents that we don't know much about, you can be tentative and not have a go, like just wait, little cat and mouse. We cannot do that. We have to have a go at them from the get-go, put them under pressure that they've perhaps not seen before, and then that's when we're our best, when we attack.
Hey, Hey, Coach, this senior class on senior day became the all-time winningest class in program history with 59 wins. Obviously, the opportunity to still get some more in the NCAA tournament. When you talk about this program, seemingly reaching new heights, getting further in the tournament, how pivotal and instrumental has this particular senior class been in kind of getting to this point?
Yeah, one of the greatest joys for me as a coach is reflecting usually around this time of the year or on senior day or at a banquet where you take a look at that class or those as individuals from when you recruited them to exiting the program. I mean, obviously you've got Ali Bidding, who's a 5th-year senior, and then the actual seniors themselves. Some of them had rough starts, to be honest, as freshmen. But when you talk about collectively and being the winningest class, what did happen to them in their freshman year is they missed out on the NCAA tournament. A lot of freshmen don't understand how difficult it is to make a tournament, and so they don't value every opponent. And so I think this senior class in particular, they have valued that and they know how important every single game is. And so I think that leadership or that knowledge has helped them be very successful this year and certainly in the previous couple of years.
And looking for go ahead.
No, man, go ahead.
And looking at it from a different angle, you've got some younger players on the team as well, including your goalkeeper, Nyla. How has she performed this year and all of the newcomers on the team?
The newcomers, some of them have had a bit of a rough start, just unfortunate injuries and so forth. The 2 freshmen that have played is obviously our goalkeeper Mila and then Philippa, who's come on the striker line. It's always an adjustment. When you come from overseas, you typically train once or twice a week. It's pretty casual. Like, this is on a whole nother level of intensity and pressure. And to be perfectly honest, it's taken a little bit of time every day at practice to be consistent and to the level that what we expect. But what's impressive is just on game day, I guess the experience and the talent has shown through. So Mila's clearly, she's a gamer. She's had a great year. She's been very, very impressive. She's one of the best goalkeepers in the country. So we definitely got lucky there. And Philippa's growing more and more every day. And so I would expect big things from her in years to come.
So I just have one more talking, about that loss in the ACC semis. This seems like a team that does a good job of staying grounded, never getting too high, never getting too low. Does it make the team hungrier now that you do kind of take one on the chin in the ACC semis after winning all 6 matches in the regular season?
Yeah, I think so. When we were matched up with UVA, it was a little bit of a danger game for us. I believe we may have beaten them about 5 games in a row over the last 2 or 3 years. That's unheard of in the ACC. Usually you go back and forth. And so at some point you were going to take a loss. I'd much rather in that game than now going on into the NCAA tournament where you're one and done. UVA was definitely hungrier than us. They were playing for something, because if they didn't win it, they probably weren't going to make the NCAA tournament. So they were first to the ball. They worked harder defensively, and we were definitely more reactive. Yeah, like I said, much rather take a loss, and that just wakes us up a little bit, show a little bit of video of what we didn't do well, and it's full steam ahead for this weekend. Our team's pretty pumped up and excited to compete.
Anything else for Coach?
Good.
That's all I have.
Thanks so much, Justine.
Awesome.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, everyone.